Good morning, folks and family. We're back here at Oakland Cemetery. Got Mr. Steve behind the camera. I'm Sean, and we're here at Section 1 of Oakland Cemetery. If you watched our past couple videos, actually a good series of videos, we did a lot of raise and resets, and then kind of like in the off time, if you will, we were using the Find a Grave app to GPS map the cemetery. What we did is kind of got the low-hanging fruit. If there's a visible stone, we used the pin dropper, the GPS location, so okay, this stone is right here. Once that was done, we started using a couple of tools, one being the cemetery map. The other thing is that there was a book that was made by a lot of volunteers back probably like 1994, 1997, that documented all the stones at the time. Now, we also know that back in the late 2000s that this cemetery was abandoned, so there's a lot of stuff that was overgrown. But in fact, the stone that's below me, the individual had passed away in the late 1930s. So what we started doing after we mapped all the, if you will, the easy stones, we started saying, okay, let's use the cemetery map to find the known, or at least the unknown to us, 200 individuals that are supposed to be buried out here. And one of the individuals, by using the cemetery map, what we use, so off to my right, there's a stone, it's called Jerz, J-E-R-Z. And then closer to the camera on the right is the Montgomery couple. And then not too far, maybe off to the camera, is the Waterton family. And now in that area, there was one name called Hawkins, H-A-W-K-I-N-S. And the only one that was left on the map was Teresa Hawkins here in Section 1. So we said, okay, let's use the process of elimination to maybe isolate where she is. So she could have been on the other side of the stone. She could have been in front of me. She could be, in fact, right where the camera stands. So what we did is we used our probing tool, and the easiest thing is we started going in line with these stones. She wasn't right here up front. Up here, we hit a couple of bricks and a couple of stones, so we almost had like a false positive where we thought we had some good luck and then it didn't work out. And sure enough, right where I'm standing is where we found a stone at the time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the grass plug, clean off the top a little bit, and then I'll read off the name of the individual that we found. So I'm going to get to work, and I'm going to go off the mic just for a second. Alright folks, so I pulled the plug, the two grass plugs off, and we know we have Teresa Hawkins, which is pretty exciting to see. The rest of the stuff is kind of grown in, so I'm not going to take up your time with the details right now, but what we have to decide to do is, we're at a minimum, we want to set that stone level to the ground. If you set it above the ground where it's too shallow, you run the risk of actually damaging the corners when we're running the lawn equipment and whatnot, especially if it's overgrown. Excellent case in point. This stone is sunk at least 4 to 6 inches below the ground. We believe that this is the first time that the stone has actually been physically seen. And so what our intention is, we're going to take the stone out, put some dirt in, put the stone back in, and then you'll of course see our cleaning of the stone, and then we'll see you in the next clip. Folks, we are back at Miss Teresa Hawkins' gravesite. Once again, we say this so much that no stone's going to be exactly the same. In fact, this stone here, there's a large block of concrete sitting on the bottom of it. So we couldn't just flip the stone over, fill the dirt, and put it back on. In fact, we got our 8-foot tripod, our half-ton chain fall. We were able to put a piece of nylon rope around the stone, and what we are going to do is we're going to raise that stone up, see what we're working with as far as the concrete on the bottom of the stone. And our goal, the way it looks like it was set, that you have this flat stone, and then right around it, it's surrounded by like a concrete layer, so it may have been set above the ground. So there's an excellent chance we're going to actually set the stone above the ground, probably about like 1 inch or 2 inches. But as of right now, we're going to go ahead and lift the stone up, so we're going to get to work, and then we're going to still reassess what we need to do as far as actually setting the stone back to its final condition. So time for me to get to work. Alright folks, so we got Teresa Hawkins stone lifted up. What we're going to do is we're going to make an assessment whether and how to put the dirt on the bottom because of the odd shape. And then once we put the dirt on the bottom, we may put some concrete on the bottom. But in the next cut, we'll have the stone set to its pseudo final condition, and then we'll go from there. So we'll see you in a little bit. Family, got Mr. Harmon. Myself, we're here at Section 1 of Oakland Cemetery. We just completed a cleaning and cleaning, razor reset, and actually the first probably uncovering of the stone in a long time. It's for Miss Teresa Hawkins. She was born on September 5, 1869, passed away in August 18, 1934. The stone was so embedded, or it's been in the ground so long, that the roots have actually just ingrew into the lettering so well that we try to clean it as well as we can. The good thing is it's going to rain tomorrow, but over the next couple weeks it's going to be really sunny and dry, so that should help break down the roots, and then they would just naturally disintegrate over time. And kind of a short recap of this stone is that for Miss Teresa Hawkins, we used the cemetery map to kind of isolate the area of where her stone could have been. The surrounding stone of the individual to the left, or excuse me, to your right, is Jerz. Right next to the camera, kind of off to the camera on its right-hand side, is the Montgomery family, and then off to that was the Waterton. So we said, okay, somewhere in this blank area, there most likely were stones. And in fact, right to your left, in this area, when we were probing, we did hit a couple of spots in which we thought were stones, but it was just ended up being bricks and other fill that may have been mixed in with the grass over time. Sure enough, we probed over here. We had the dimensions, a good feel of a stone. It was Miss Teresa Hawkins. We know that since the Find a Grave profile was created, probably about 18 years ago, and then since the cemetery Find a Grave profile was created probably about 24 years ago, this stone never had a picture. So this is probably the first time that this stone has seen the light of day in at least 20 years, and a good chance possibly even up to 75 or 80 years after that. And at the very end, we have this bouquet of flowers we'd like to place next to the stone. And for the simple fact that the stone was overgrown or it had sunk down, we're going to take a top-down picture, and we're also going to take a perspective picture, so that way in the case a loved one tries to find the stone in the future, they will at least have a good idea of where it is. So that concludes another Razor Reset. There's a lot of things that did not make it on the video. If you have any questions or comments, or if you have any questions about a specific step, leave it in the comments section, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. But drop us a like and subscribe if you like material like this. And if you want to keep seeing what we're doing, just hit the subscription button. And as always, we appreciate your support. Good morning, folks and family of Oakland Cemetery. Sean got Mr. Steve Harmon behind the camera. We're in a super windy day out here in late March, but that's just how Virginia is. It's super windy, so I apologize for any wind noise on the camera. What we want to inform you on is that we're here in section 1 of the cemetery. We were looking for full gravestones. We're basically using a cemetery map, isolating an area, just kind of like right in front of me, where we're looking for large gravestones. In the process of probing around for hidden gravestones, we ended up finding 2 gravestones, which we thought could easily be mistaken for like a brick, small rock, asphalt, gravel, chunks of concrete. And what was really neat is that there's never been a picture of these 2 stones before, and there's a good chance that since the cemetery has been documented in Find a Grave back in January of 2000, that these 2 stones, we know for a fact, have probably not seen the light of day for at least 24 years. They were recorded through Find a Grave Memorial, as well as in the cemetery map and the cemetery book that was published in, I think, 1994, 1997. But they were never identified, and I could easily see why. So right now we're in a family plot area, and literally right where I'm standing would be the border. The border is right about where the pipe is, right by my right foot, left to you. This pipe is literally a concrete block all the way to the side, towards the camera, and actually behind the camera, basically encompassing the Cunningham family's plot, which is also a shared plot with the Shepherds. So while we were probing, trying to find this hidden stone, we ended up finding 2 infant stones, which was really neat. We'll pull the map back here in a second to show you which ones they are, but the stones are probably about the size of a 6x6 stone, if you will. And that you can easily see if you're probing around, you might think, okay, well, it's just another brick. It could be the border. We just don't know what it is. And maybe if someone did search for it in the past, that's probably why it may have gotten overlooked. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to peel the map back and show you where the stones are. And then between Mr. Harmon and I, we just have to determine, we'll say if this is the top of the stone and this is the ground, we just want to at least level to the ground. That way, one, it minimizes the risk of damage to the stone, but at the same time, we've pointed this out a lot of times, no 2 stones are exactly the same. So we have to, once we actually get the stone out of the ground, we have to see if there's concrete under it, is it flat, and if it is, then we just have to make a determination of how we're going to do that. So if anything, I'm going to pull the mats back, and I'm going to get to work, and then here in a second, we'll proceed on to the next thing. So I'm going to get to work here in a second. So just to point out, this right here is the Cunningham baby from 1915. And this is baby Cunningham from 1913. But that is it for right now. We'll see you in the next cut, where basically we'll do a close-up on the stones itself and do some cleaning, some raise and resettings, and we'll see you then. Folks and family, we are back at section 1 of Oakland Cemetery. Out of all the stones that we do, I think for myself, some of the most exciting ones are when you have an infant stone. It's just obviously children are very special, so when you find these stones, it's just something special about it. What we had to do, both of these stones had different shapes of concrete on the base of them. So what we did we kind of had to prop the stone up. See, so if this was the stone, excuse me, got a sponge here, but basically if this was the stone and there was a block of concrete on the bottom, we had to use our wedging tool to kind of prop it up and then fill dirt on the inside. You can fill dirt, you can use gravel, but we only had to raise these up a couple of inches from where they were. But our main goal was to not get it above the ground and then also be able to fill the dirt solid on the base. So that explains we were able to get them flat to the ground, and now Mr. Harmon and I, we're going to get to work cleaning these nice stones, and then we'll see you here in a little bit. It's like, you know, sometimes you get a pass. I think the pictures I put on Find a Grave, like usually I'll kind of wait for the children. I went ahead and posted them. And I think you and I, we cleaned these when they were in the ground. Alright folks, so we got our stones cleaned up. We're going to dry them up here in a second. Yeah, just give me a second. I'm going to dry it up. Alright folks, so Mr. Harmon and I have got these stones cleaned up, and we'll close it out here in the next cut with the overall view of what we did. Folks and family, we're at the conclusion of the Cunningham infant raise and reset. These stones, honestly, they were probably found by accident while we were looking for larger stones. But in the process of looking for stones, Mr. Harmon and I were able to locate these two stones. We actually found one, the Cunningham baby, who passed away in 1913. Then eventually, we're like, well, if we found one, we're going to most likely find the other. But now we knew what we were looking for, because instead of a large stone, we looked for actually a smaller stone. And the tricky part was we were literally on the border of a family plot, so we did not know if we were hitting the plot, and before we did a bunch of unnecessary digging, we wanted to make sure we found one stone, vice the next. The other thing we did, instead of having a large hole here, we took a lot of the plug of grass and kind of dressed it up as well as we could to return the cemetery back to its natural form. And so we did the best we could. We cleaned both Cunningham stones, so we got Cunningham baby, passed away in 1913. The other Cunningham infant passed away in 1915. There's a fair chance that these stones have not seen the light of day for at least 20 years, because now we're talking 111 and 109 years old are how old these stones are. But now we found them, and because they were covered in the past, we're going to take a photo of it from the top down, as well as a perspective shot. Another thing for documentation is this video. When this video, we'll put a link of it to the infants Find a Grave profiles. And that way it's just one more tool that in the event that these get covered over time, someone can look it up and say, you know what, right next to the Cunningham stone, off to this side somewhere, there should be these two infant stones. The last thing we're going to do, we got the set of flowers here that Mr. Harmon brought, and we're just going to place them in between the infant stones to add like a nice little touch. And there you go. That's a really good, it's very gratifying raise and reset and final or initial uncovering of the two infant stones for the Cunningham babies. If you have any questions or comments, please leave it in the comment section below. Drop us a like and subscribe. And as always, we appreciate your support. Good morning, folks. This is Sean. Got Mr. Steve behind the camera. We're here at Oakland Cemetery, off here in Section 3 of Oakland Cemetery. Section 3 is a rather small section of the Oakland Cemetery, and it kind of borders a little creek. And you're like, why do I need to know these details? It's kind of point out why we're actually here right now. If you've been following us lately, past couple videos, we've been in the process of mapping the cemetery. And then the thing was, when we were mapping the cemetery, there was a photo of a stone, and we're like, well, we could not find it. It was the individual's name was Junious, Junious Harris, Harris. The thing was, he was a military vet, served in the United States Navy. There was a picture of his stone, and then once you realize, like, the area that we're in, if you look off to my right, you got these small trees, these saplings, and you have all this grass and leaf behind me, which almost makes it near impossible, because you're like, well, first of all, there's nothing back there, and then you have the bordering. So right now I'm standing in the Grady, which is Grady family plot. So you have all these Grady stones, you have a concrete border around it. You're like, okay, so that's the end of this plot. Then off to it, you have 3 more plots in front of me, and that should be it. This is where we go into talking about the cemetery, the use of the cemetery map, the use of notes that are left behind from individuals. So in this case here, Miss C is in Charlie Lotta, who left notes, very specific notes, in Find a Grave. And then almost a huge thanks to the U.S. Air Force Sergeants Association, who, in the area where I was standing, once again, this is and was an abandoned cemetery, where the stickler vines, growth, trees that literally would be up to the area where the camera was, if not even further. When they cleaned this area, they pretty much cleaned the area all the way up to the border wall, and probably in the process of cleaning the leaves and the debris, they ended up finding one of these veteran stones, who was Junious Harris. I'm going to read you a little excerpt, because we poked and prodded around using the probing tool. We tried to find it. Tried to use the cemetery map book that was published in 1994, so there was an excellent chance that his stone was not documented at the time. But the notes in the Find a Grave Memorial, along with the efforts done by the United States Air Force Sergeants Association, really kind of pinpointed or isolated an area where we searched for a stone. And the notes read as follows. This is for Junious Harris. It says, and this is from C. Lotta, who put these notes in, which are extremely helpful. On February 7th, 2015, thanks to the voluntary, heartfelt efforts of the United States Air Force Staff Sergeants Association and other participating organizations, the marker of this Navy veteran was uncovered of debris. The marker was not in view of any way, nor logged into Find a Grave until February 8th, 2015, so literally the next day. The volunteers just so happened to be in the area, and the grave was located, as well as they cleared away all the sticker vines, the leaves, and then finally found Mr. Harris's stone and returned it to its original condition, and had it in a very presentable fashion. Now, the thing was, over time, after the major cleanup took place, it's very easy, literally in one season, where the fall leaves can cover the stone again, and that's exactly what happened. And then if you weren't looking for the stone, next thing you know, you just have another group of leaves, trees will grow around it, and then you're back to where you were probably about 10 years ago. So what we ended up doing, we probed around a lot, we went off the notes that Miss Lotta put down, and we actually found, I'm going to walk to the stone as we speak, or actually I'm going to walk to the stone, and then you'll see where the stone actually was. There was a note in there that also said, Mr. Harris's stone is right over Section 3 border's wall. And if you look at it, this cemetery plot right over the border wall would be the Harris stone. So I'm going to go walk over. So right now, I'm standing in the area and Mr. Harris, Junious Harris's stone is right in front of me. We're going to mark it with this flag right here, and it's really cool that that those folks put in the effort to clear this area, as well as the notes that were in there. And I'm going to read you the top of the stone. It's Junious Harris, United States Navy, served in World War II. He was born on April 15th, 1922, passed away December 22nd, 1996. So, of course, thanks for his service. Thanks for the efforts and the notes that have kind of led us to assisting finding this location. And the other thing we're going to do is we're going to take a top-down picture as well as a perspective picture, so that way, in the event the stone gets covered again in the future, if someone wants to look for it, they'll be able to find it again using a more dialed-in location. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave it in the comments section below. Drop us a like and subscribe if you like material like this. And we still have about 200 more stones to look for, and we'll see you in the future. We really appreciate your support.